they know what is going on in their own environment because they're out there every single day. They're out there fishing, they're out there hunting. They can see when fish stocks are going down or going up, and they can actually make really good recommendations for policy changes.
We know very little about some of the most biodiverse and vulnerable parts of the world. Without data, researchers cannot understand what's going on, and policymakers cannot make informed decisions to protect the environment. So how can we collect this precious data? Hi, I'm Stephen Boucher, co-editor of the Handbook of Collective Intelligence for Democracy and Governance, and founder of Dreamocracy and Smarter Together. Today, we talk to a pioneer of citizen science, ecologist Gitte Kragh, to learn what citizen science is and how it works in the real world. How scientists can ask for the help of citizens, be they local fishermen, birdwatchers, or crude expedition tourists, to collect data and understand complex local problems. And how policymakers can adjust policy thanks to input from knowledgeable locals and tourists.
So my name is Gitte Kragh. I work as a researcher at Aarhus University in Denmark and also at the Nordic Fund for Development and Ecology, also based in Denmark. I work for citizen science, which is the engagement of the public in scientific research. And that can be anything from crowdsourcing online, various different platforms, to actually people going out and investigating their own local environment. So community-based monitoring, where we work really closely with the local communities. So the point of citizen science is really a lot of different things. So from the community side or the citizen side, they can get involved in scientific research. They can understand more both about their local environment, but also about science in general. From the scientific side, we get a lot of information that we otherwise would not have gotten. It can also lead to various initiatives on the ground and change both in terms of policy, but also in terms of natural resource management, for example. So examples of citizen science can be what we did in Greenland and Svalbard, where we engaged with the local communities, but also with the cruise industry, because Svalbard and Greenland, they have really low populations. They're areas where no people go. So we don't know anything about those areas. The only people going there occasionally are the cruise ship operators. So we got the visitors on the cruise ship to monitor, for example, if they saw birds or whales or polar bears. So anything to help us understand what is actually going on in those really remote areas help in terms of citizen science. So citizen science can help scientists and researchers in a lot of different ways. First of all, it can be really basic in terms of just getting us more data. And getting us data from places that we couldn't go ourselves, for example, Greenland and Svalbard. But it can also be to enhance our understanding of what is actually going on, because if we're sitting in a focus group and talking to local people about their issues, we get a new understanding of what is going on. Because a lot of researchers go into areas, spend a little bit of time there, but if they don't live there, how can they know the real issues in an area? So it helps us in many, many different ways in research, all the way from understanding and even creating or coming up with really good research questions to the data gathering. And they can help analyze what is going on as well. For example, with the fishermen in Greenland going, actually, numbers are going down, we can see it. Finally, to actually having the link to policymakers is something that they can do as well. Here, it's important that we have intermediary organizations that can go in and take the data or what comes out from the researchers and translate it into something that policymakers can easily understand. We don't need lots and lots of data, raw data. That's really complicated to look at. We need something like a one-pager or a brief report that policymakers have the time to actually read and can understand, and then can come back to us and ask further questions if needed. In Greenland, Nordeko has been working for many years, decades actually, with the local communities of hunters and fishermen. And in those local communities, they know what is going on in their own environment because they're out there every single day. They're out there fishing, they're out there hunting. They can see when fish stocks are going down or going up, and they can actually make really good recommendations for policy changes. And so what we have done out there is for them to actually monitor and get together once a month and record what they've seen, the changes they've seen, and for them to make policy recommendations based on this. And those recommendations are now being taken up by governments in Greenland. So policymakers are listening, and it's great because that's really what we need. So, for example, in Greenland, some of the local communities came up saying, actually, we're seeing lower numbers of these fish stocks, so we should take less of these because otherwise they're not going to be there in a few years. And that was a recommendation for policymakers to actually lower quotas, which is slightly counterintuitive when you think about it, because you think, oh, fishers, they just want to fish more. But actually, sometimes they don't, because if they understand the environment they're in, they can see what they need to do to have it sustainable. So in our case, in the Svalbard region and also in Greenland, the cruise ship operators got their guides on the cruise ships to engage the visitors. A lot of the visitors come there specifically to look at birds or to look at the whales or the polar bears. So that's an easy ask. We're asking them to actually share with us what they see. They register it already because many of them are already registering, oh, I've seen these birds. So it's a really easy ask for us to go, okay, we would like you to share this data with us. On the other hand, we also try to get people to look at clouds, which, well, we can look at clouds at home. Anywhere we are, we can just look up. So it's not as interesting. It's not as special. So not very many people wanted to engage in that, and we got very, very few observations. So we really need to have to think about, what are we asking people to do? What motivates them to do it? If they're not interested, they're not going to do it. They're doing it on their own time, spending their own resources to go to places, and we have to be respectful of people's time. Yeah, so we need to motivate people to actually participate in our programs. In certain cases, especially when it's about locally based monitoring, for example, it's about issues they have in their local communities, or it's concerns that they have locally. If it's more something that we would like, or we would like them to share with us, we might need to take some additional tools into consideration. For example, if you want a focus group to function well, a cup of tea or coffee and some food is actually really beneficial. Who doesn't like a cup of tea or coffee? It's really important to work out what is going to make people relax. It's a bit of an icebreaker, and they feel comfortable. So that's what we want to have them do. But also, a lot of people are doing this because they want to learn something. So we need to give them opportunities to actually engage and learn, not in a lecturing way, because that's not what it's all about. They need to realize things themselves. So they need to go and see and do and then understand, and we can facilitate the learning, but we don't lecture. We have a big international community. We have a Citizen Science Global Partnership, and we have regional associations. For example, in Europe, we have the European Citizen Science Association, and we are more than happy to help. In Europe, we have at least 17 national organizations as well. So depending on what the level is, we can do national interventions, we can help with international projects and getting in touch with the right people. So get in touch with the international community and we can help. So my background is in ecology, and in ecology, there are a lot of people actually giving us a lot of data, for example, about birds or plants or anything else they see. So we use citizen science a lot, and it used to just be volunteers. So the term citizen science only emerged in the 90s. Even though the term is new, the concept is really old because the birders have been around for centuries. So it's not a new thing that's coming up right now, but it has a revival and has had it since 2000, where science is opening up again, and we're inviting the public to come and participate in scientific projects. And so my PhD was about what makes people actually participate. So around the motivation, why do they participate in these types of projects? how does that affect their well-being? And we know that being out in nature is good for us, but actually being out in nature and doing something meaningful, like participating in citizen science or environmental projects, that enhances it even more. So do participate. And finally, we were linking it to what we as researchers get out of it on the ground. Because without the people, the public, the volunteers, we don't have anything. So we need everybody to participate in our projects.
To find out more about how collective intelligence can make our democracy stronger, go to our website, Smarter Together. There you will find all the Handbook's 30+ case studies and other resources, all for free.